Hi, I'm Multimuse and welcome back to another video. Today's video is going to be more chill, so join me in drawing some portraits. This actually wasn't meant to be this week's video. I was meant to draw Pokemon in different typings, but I couldn't for some reason. I just really didn't like everything that I was drawing. And so I ended up just saying, okay, let's do something else. So here we are with portraits. I still have the footage of the Pokemon drawings, so that might still happen at some point. You might see that uploaded, maybe next week or something. It really just depends how I feel with it once it's all come together. But yeah, onto the subject of today, which is drawing faces. I honestly just wanted to do something that I was pretty comfortable with because I was kind of struggling with drawing for YouTube recently. So I'm really glad how this all turned out. And I think the reason it turned out so well was because I was, in a way, speedrunning these drawings, but not because I wanted them to get done quickly. It was so that I didn't think about it so much. And in the end, I actually was really happy with how they turned out, and it's because I wasn't like stuck on like the details of them or anything. But yeah, I had a lot of fun with it. You might have noticed that there were already some sketches on the page previous, and that is because I wanted to do some warm-ups before I actually came to recording. But don't worry, I do end up colouring them and just going over them in this video. So with this current drawing here in the orange pencil, I wanted to do something with a little more expression. So I made this portrait a little bigger than the rest of them and just dedicated this specific page to this one. I initially didn't know what to do with this drawing's mouth, as I usually draw mouths closed, but I ended up giving her a little sticking out tongue, which went really nicely with the position of her hands. And I just made her hands do a little heart shape because I think that's so cute when people like take selfies with like their like little finger heart things. I don't know what it's called. Like posing? Just like posing your hand to look like a heart. Yeah, that. And it just looked really cute. I do wish that I had tilted her head slightly because I feel like that would have looked a bit more relaxed rather than just, you know, front facing and like static almost. I also decided to give her like a turtleneck because I didn't want her to just be like a floating head with floating hands because I don't know, I thought it would be a little bit weird looking, so I'm glad that I at least gave her like a jumper to like insinuate that she's not just floating parts. I also left her design relatively simple because I didn't want to complicate it because this was more about the colouring the portraits. When it came to colouring, I used the Arrtx acrylic markers for the hair and then the Arrtx alcohol markers for the skin. I gave this character here pink hair and I just colour blocked it all in the same colour so that later I could go over with a darker pink to show the shadows and the details. It was really fun and refreshing to just let loose with these markers and work faster than usual because I didn't dwell on the details too much, so I wasn't like stressing out about what looked good and what looked bad. Instead, I was just focusing on actually getting the colours onto the page. I was really happy with how this sketch was turning out. The skin was also with alcohol markers, and then I just went with a bit of pencil over the top. I pretty much leave this one as it is after the markers, but you'll see that the other sketches, once I'm done, with the colouring process, I go over and line it with a black fine liner, which I wouldn't usually do, but I thought it would be fun to do that today. Whereas I usually use coloured pencil for line art as it's softer and I use different colours rather than black. When it came to choosing the colours, I honestly just went for the ones that I liked the most when looking at my tub of acrylic markers. This drawing here ended up being my favourite out of all the ones that I had drawn, and I think that's because the way that I used this specific alcohol marker was really fun. I'm not exactly a professional when it comes to alcohol markers, but I definitely tried something out, and that was just building up with the same colour. What I did for this drawing and the other ones after this was, with that same alcohol marker, I would put my initial layer down and wait for that to dry. Then once it was dry, I would go on top of it and just build that up until I was satisfied with how it looked. I also, of course, tried blending them out, and that went pretty well too. I just got a darker colour for the shadows, and after placing that down, I went with the previous colour and just went on top of it in order to blend it together. I think the specific colour and marker that I was using here was really good at blending and just building up the colour. As you can see, it gets darker and it just looks so nice whilst slightly blending into its original layer. I also put the shadows under the eyes and on the nose and blended that out just to make it look like a bit of blush. Like I had previously said, this was definitely my favourite drawing just because of the fact that I was using a new technique and it just turned out so well. This drawing also just turned out so smooth, like there are no visible streaks, whereas I believe in some of the other ones there are definitely some that you can see. At first I was a bit stumped with what colour to do for her hair, but I opted for this really beautiful, almost like lavender colour because I thought it just complemented her so well and looked so like, it looked almost like royal, and I just really loved it. So that's my reasoning for this beautiful colour. I think overall this character gives me like fairy vibes or like elf vibes, and I love her so much. She's so beautiful. I also gave her a bit more volume when I was using the acrylic marker because I thought that she deserved fluffier hair. If I ever decide to revisit this character, I am definitely going to be giving her fairy wings because imagine her with pretty iridescent lilac fairy wings. I think that'll be absolutely gorgeous and will suit her so much. I'm also really happy with how I defined her hair with the darker purple and made it look curlier. And the last thing is, I think I would change her eye colour in the future if I do revisit her character. Now with this character, I ran into a slight problem as I quickly found out whenever I placed down the alcohol marker on top of the pencil, it would erase it. And I don't know if it's because the lead was like colour, so it's like a erasable colour mechanical pencil. So maybe the alcohol was like mixing with the components of the lead and that led to it being erased. But I was really confused and I didn't know how that would like affect the drawing, but I ended up just working around it. At least I know for next time that I shouldn't use this specific lead if I'm planning on using alcohol markers on the top. But I also faced another problem that I quickly solved, the hair colour. So I used a brown acrylic marker that was running out, but I didn't realise that it was running out until I was like almost done with her fringe. But that's alright, I just went with a lighter colour because I couldn't find an exact copy, and I'm actually glad because I like the lighter brown more on her. So I guess it's somewhat of a happy accident. But yeah, I really like the contrast between the light brown and then this like almost like hazelnut brown that I used for the shadows. It looks so good, especially with the green in her eyes. I think all the colors that I used on this drawing specifically just all complemented one another, and I love it so much. And her lip color matches the color of the shadows in her hair, so it just all comes together so nicely. With this last drawing, I already knew that I wanted her to have like bright orange hair, so that's why I used like an orange pencil to sketch her. But I also did quickly realize that this drawing was just so warm because of the colors that I had selected. So I went with like this really lovely blue to combat that for her turtleneck. I'm also trying to do the build up method with the markers again, where I wait for the first layer to dry and then I just keep going over with the same marker to create like a darker tone. And I did that with the cheeks, and I think it turned out really lovely. But I also did use some pink just to add a bit more color into the drawing. Her hair was super fun to color, as this specific marker is so bright, so juicy, and it's just such a pleasant experience. So I had a lot of fun with that, and I did use a color for the shadows that I didn't really like. I feel like it wasn't dark enough and it just blended in a little too much with that original orange, but it ended up looking alright, so I can't really complain that much. One thing I love about acrylic markers is that you can easily correct your mistakes by just going over them, and that's what I had to do with the hair, and it was just so satisfying to do. And then here I am just using that blue to break up the warm tones. It looks so lovely, especially because they're complementary colors, so it makes sense. And it just really ties this specific illustration together so well. Like, this is what's holding it together, if I'm honest. This marker here is also another Arrtx acrylic marker. It is the SimTap marker that I did a review on a little while back. Now I'm just going on to lining the actual drawings to give them a bit more definition and make them a bit more easy to read. Since this section is more simple, I think I'm just going to talk about some other stuff for now. I wanted to talk a little bit about my shop. So as you know, I usually link to my Ko-fi when I talk about selling stuff, but I think I'm going to go back to Etsy, as that platform is a little easier for me and it also gains more of an audience, so I feel like that's probably best for me right now. So from now on, I'll be leaving a link to my Etsy down below, but you can still commission me on Ko-fi, as that is the easiest platform for me to take commissions on. But yeah, I've been planning some stuff that I want to put onto my Etsy shop, and that includes handmade polymer clay keychains and also some shrink plastic keychains as well. I've already made some, and those just need to have their pictures taken and put in onto the website. But of course, I'll always let you guys know when stuff gets put onto my Etsy. I want to make stuff that's really one of a kind, so that like no like clay figure is like the other, so that everyone gets their own little unique handmade thing by me if you were to buy from my shop. Of course, I've been making more stickers, and I have packs of discontinued stickers as well, as before I had started this channel I already had some stickers that I wanted to sell, but I no longer am like truly proud of the designs. I think they're alright, but they're just not my brand, so they're gonna be sold at a cheaper price. I also really would love to make a coloring book later in the future because I just think that would be so much fun, and I think my art style would really suit that actually, especially my more cuter like sea creature style. But yeah, I also really want to do a Comic-Con someday, but I need to be like fully prepared for that, as that just sounds so stressful as of right now. I've also been moving stuff around in my room in hopes of making a more productive space, so hopefully in a couple weeks I'll already have stickers up on my shop, which is the goal really. I really want to get some stickers out next month, possibly a couple this month. It really depends how it goes because I'm not sure if I want to do like a shop launch or just add stuff when it's been made, because that's what I used to do before YouTube, but I feel like a lot of people do shop launches, but I just gotta figure it out really. But yeah, that's basically all my plans for my shop, and I really hope that you guys are also looking forward to it because I'm really excited to put stuff up on my shop because I'm so proud of what I've been designing and creating, especially the clay pieces. They have been so fun to make. And spoiler alert, but I do have some footage of me making clay charms that I am planning on using for a video at some point. Now that I have finished all of my drawings, I am decorating the pages with washi tape and Mofu stickers. I am honestly so happy and proud of how these turned out. They were so fun to do, like actually so fun. The colors are so fun and it was such a delight. But yeah, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video and I will see you next time. Bye bye!